Okay, our beloveds, here is take 2. We will try this differently now. Okay, so what if you helping another creates more karma, negative karma for the person that you are helping? But what if it is your karma to help them? It is a conflicting thought. Many of you want to help others, but in doing so create a bigger ripple effect. And many of you don't wish to help others, and thereby create a greater ripple effect. So how do you know if your role within a particular circumstance is to help someone versus to let them flounder? It is a very difficult decision to make, even for the most advanced students, because when you see pain and suffering, your fear response jumps into place, and it is hard to get good guidance because you feel the immediacy of the situation pulling you. But here is the ultimate question. Why is this event happening for that person or that group of people? Is it here to teach them something? Is it here to help them to surrender? Or is it merely that they are victims of a construct from which they cannot save themselves? Picture a young child that is caught in a sex trafficking scheme. Would you ever tell that child, well, I'm sorry, this is part of your karma, and therefore I can do nothing to help you? Is that what you would ever say? Well, no, because that child is stuck in a patriarchal construct of dominion and control over them. While they themselves may have certain life lessons that they are still working through, your responsibility lies in saving that person from that existence. So in that type of a circumstance, there is never a question on whether you should get involved and act. If you see a person beating another person, it is your duty to say, no, stop that. But most of you have chosen not to be that good Samaritan because you either believe somebody else will do it or it is just simply not your responsibility. But what if it is and you have simply chosen not to exercise it? But then there is a child who is failing in school. When do you step in and when do you not? It is again a very nuanced answer because it depends upon the nature of the lesson that that student is learning. Is it that they are just simply not doing anything and therefore failure is guaranteed? Or is it that they're somehow failing through the cracks? If they're failing through the cracks, which is not falling through the cracks, but failing through the cracks, meaning that they're doing what they can, but there are certain issues or complications in their lives where they are unable to fully understand and meet the expectations that are set for them. So where somebody is doing nothing, it makes no sense to do anything to help them not to fail because they're not putting forth any effort to save themselves. Therein lies the difference. If the person is doing nothing to save themselves or are unable to save themselves because of the torturous experience within which they find themselves, then step in. But if the person is doing nothing to fix or resolve their circumstance, then this is where they need to first find themselves in the process. And that is oftentimes where you let them fall to rock bottom. Now you can hold their hand while walking with them on this journey, but to try to get them to succeed through false efforts doesn't help them to learn the skills that they need, the resiliency that they need to survive. But it also doesn't mean that you just abandon them and let them go their own way. It just means that you cannot save them, in quotes, because they are not ready to be saved. But you can walk with them and tell them that you love them and that you're here to support them and that they need to tell you how they would like for your support to come in. Allow them to design their solution, but don't abandon them either. So when you see an animal splashing about in the water, about to drown, what would you do there? Would you simply just allow the animal to drown, or would you do something? Many of you would do something if it was feasible, and many of you would say, well, it's not my responsibility. So why don't you look at your response and see what it is that you can learn from your desire to save or your willingness to let this animal die? Which of those two paths would you choose and why? And do you feel that it is in karmic balance with loving your neighbor and loving self? Are you letting the animal die because of a lack of compassion? Because when you were younger, nobody came to save you? Or are you realistically looking at the situation saying, there's nothing I can do? The animal is too far out in the middle of the water. I am not tall enough. I am not big enough. I am not strong enough. It is an impossibility for me even to try. So which of those two responses explains your lack of desire to get involved? And what about those of you who will literally sacrifice your own life to save this animal? Go back to your childhood. What is it within your childhood that makes you willing to die for something that you don't even know? An animal that you have no connection with. Is it because people weren't there for you when you were younger and you wish that they had been there to save you, to create a sense of comfort or whatever, and therefore you're willing to show up for others in a way that others never did for you? It is all a lesson for you all to experience why you behave the way that you do and why you choose to see the world the way that you do. Therein lies so much of your own sense of self and how the universe works and where you see yourself fitting into it. And as you all begin to explore these thought processes more, you will begin to understand much of where you find the world now, much of why the atrocities have been permitted to happen, to occur, where humanity just stood by and watched. It is because of your own childhood, your own programming, your own training, your own sense of lack that puts you where you are now, and therefore expresses itself through your willingness or unwillingness to get involved in helping others, and the why of it. It's your journey individually and collectively now to figure out why you are here and how you wish to move forward. And we're so very excited because many of you are beginning to see yourselves and yourself differently than you did before COVID. So you are beginning to understand how this governmental construct, this world construct of materialism and shopping and buying and all of that outward expression is just no longer making you happy, and slowing down and spending time with family and friends now and seeing your blessings in the smaller things, whereas before you took them for granted. It is all a beautiful journey, and we just wish for those of you who are doing your inner work to keep looking, because your inner work and your inner shifts are making a massive and dramatic change in where humanity is going. You are the change that you wish to be and see in the world, and your little baby steps are moving humanity forward to its collective desired point on the horizon. So keep up the good work. We are immensely proud of you, and we will see you on the other side. And so it is. Namaste.